being able to own your own email list and own the access to your community, I think is so important.
Yeah. We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit
I
card debt.
still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. My name is Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers. I'm the host, and today I have on the show Thomas Moen.
Hey.
And Thomas, you're from Norway.
Yes.
Awesome. Can you give our listeners a little bit of your background?
Absolutely. I'm from a small village in Norway with 350 people.
Yeah. So how did you get internet out there?
Yes. So I realized when I got internet for the first time, I realized that there were more weird people like me.
Okay, good.
Right? I was always an outsider.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was 4 people in my class, 3 girls and 1 guy.
Yeah.
The whole school was 24 people.
Oh, wow.
So for me, that was kind of a shy introvert guy that was very interested in totally different things than my other friends were. When I saw the internet, that's kind of where everything changed, because I found like more weird people like me.
Yeah.
And being able to communicate with people all over the world and write to them. And I mean, early internet days, people were so friendly and open to share experiences all over the place because it was so new, right?
Yep.
So that's where I mainly kind of learned things.
Yeah.
And then because I was so early, I was part of the big social media bubble in Norway very early on. So I was one of the few people who were talking about it before we called it blogging or before we called it Web 2.0 or social media. So people started paying attention to me. And people started giving me money to help them to do things.
Yeah.
And that's the way I learned. So being able to help businesses try different angles, try different ideas was my way of evolving and understanding how this all works and fits together.
Were you serving them as clients then? Was it like an agency type of thing, or were you consulting? Or
So I was starting with consulting first, and just big variety of different clients. And then that turning into an agency and finding more people that could help and scale that. But for a very long time, it was just speaking and consulting and just traveling around sharing, simple social media tactics. That was groundbreaking back in the days because nobody was really doing it or understanding the impact it would have in the world.
And now you're kind of a big deal in Norway, right?
Yeah, again, Norway is 5 million people. So,
Yeah.
but yes, I'm lucky to be one of the voices out there that people pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I'm very blessed that I have an audience now in Norway of thousands and thousands of businesses that listens to me, and I'll get the opportunity to help them and serve them.
Where do they primarily follow you?
So email.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you've got a big email marketing list. Okay.
I started, building a list 12 years ago.
Oh, good. Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes I did when I built my list was for the first 8-9 years.
Did you spam them?
No. Actually, the opposite, which was a problem because I gave free value without giving an option to buy anything for 9 years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I started talking about online courses and things they can buy.
And they were like, you sell out.
Yes. That happened. So that was a very interesting transition.
Yep.
So people were kind of offended that
you had to
finally
clean out a lot of that old audience.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, you had to rebuild the expectations of the relationship of the email list, which was very interesting. But so most my audience I communicate to through email, of course, a lot of Facebook. My Facebook Messenger list is also growing very largely. I use Messenger bots a lot now in my marketing, and also podcasting. And I try to hit all the different kind of. I like to. People can read things on my website. They can watch me on video on YouTube and Facebook, and they can listen to me with podcasting. So I try to hit all the different senses in terms of being able to reach people in different ways.
Yeah, as many platforms as possible. But what's so great about email, for those of you that are wondering, like, it is the only list that you truly own, right?
Yes.
Because once you're on somebody else's platform, like Facebook, or like Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. No, doesn't matter how many subscribers you have or followers or whatever. If their algorithm changes, they can limit your ability to communicate with people who have basically agreed
Yes.
to follow you and communicate with you, whereas email, you always own that. That's always
For sure.
yours.
And I mean, it happens all the time. Facebook, in the beginning, when you had a Facebook page as a business, you reached almost everyone who liked your page.
Yeah.
But now it's just way below 2%, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so being able to own your own email list and own the access to your community, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
And of course, people are always saying that email is dying and nobody's reading
No.
email, but it's not true.
It is not.
As long as you have a real relationship with them,
Yeah, that's right.
every time I send out an email, I get hundreds of replies. And that's one of the fun things I think is cool with the email, is actually interacting with people and having conversations.
Yeah.
And also that's very good for the email providers, because they see that I actually talk back and forth with my list. So I get more deliverables. People open my emails often. People click more. So I get preferred access into people's inboxes because we actually have an interaction back and forth.
What would you say for people that are wanting to build a valuable email list, a following through email?
Yeah.
What would you say are the top 3 tips that you would give them to say, doing these 3 things are going to be really big for you in building your email list?
I would say, I mean, the first thing you need to think about is that you need to give them some kind of value in exchange for their contact information, right? So,
Okay, so
what you call
some sort of content.
Content in some sort that is worth more than them sharing your email address.
That's right.
So that's very important.
Yep. It's got to be worth more than that trade-off of like, oh, do I really want to give it to them? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you need to set expectations
Okay.
in terms of what they're going to experience after they're opting into your list, right?
Yes.
So both in terms of how you're going to use their email and how often you're going to communicate, and just set their expectations right there.
Just proper expectations.
Yes.
This is the kind of relationship we're entering into together.
Yes.
Making sure you're okay
Yes.
with that kind of
So
thing.
when
yeah?
you sign up for my list, I say I email once a week, and on this day I talk about these and these different things.
Yep.
And if you're interested in that, you're more than welcome to stay on. And if you're not interested, you're more welcome to just click the link. And I actually have my unsubscribe link way up in the first email, just to kind of make sure that they really understand it, and that creates trust because of me being confident enough to say, if you want to be here, please. If not, you can just get off the list. So setting expectations, I think, is also really, really important.
Okay.
And then consistency,
Okay.
right? So
What kind of consistency? Define that.
I would say at least once a week.
Okay. Yep.
You should provide them with some kind of what I call value content.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a light feather interaction. It's just a friendly reminder of who you are and you bringing some kind of value to them.
Yeah.
And if you have that over time, that will just build and compound into something very, very powerful. To cheat a little bit, number 4 in my top 3 tips
Don't do it.
would be to always encourage starting conversations. So don't be afraid to talk to your audience and have conversations with your audience. Don't have a no reply at your domain.com list, but just be
Feedback.
open. Yeah. Talk to people.
Yeah.
You know.
Start that conversation with them. Get them engaging.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, social media, they often talk about, it's all about engagement and that kind of thing on
Yeah.
social media, but email is a tool for that as well.
Absolutely. And even on social media and on email, people try to automate too much.
Yeah.
So the personal touch goes away.
Yeah.
And when you kind of try to do the unscalable thing of actually having conversations with people who wants to listen to you, magic happens.
Yeah, it really is magic, and people will feel that. They'll feel that difference. What, to your memory, I'd love to hear, like, you describe one of the best emails you've ever sent. Do you have a memory of like a really great email you sent out that was just like awesome?
I mean, and I would measure it in 2 ways, because one is making sales or making money, which is one thing. Another thing is more building more trust with my audience.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the most trustworthy and most kind of replied emails I ever got was I wrote or shared a story of me getting bullied when I was a kid.
Oh, it's like super personal.
Super personal. Because in Norway, in the news, there were a lot of talking about bullying, and I just wanted to share that. Even though you can get bullied when you're a kid, you can still become what you want to be.
Yeah, you can overcome that.
Yes. So that that was something that brought me really, really close to my list.
Yep.
Built a lot of trust and a close relationship.
Yeah.
So kind of that's the engagement part. And in terms of conversions of actually generating sales, it actually was when I was going to discontinue one of my products that I sell, an online course.
Okay.
I said, just as a courtesy, I'm now shutting down my course, which was on blogging, which was super popular a few years ago. And so it was just a few sentences of me saying, I'm shutting it down. If you want it, it's just have 50% off, and I'm going to shut it down on Sunday. And it just exploded.
So for people that were that had already paid for it, they still had access. But you're just saying, I'm not going to be selling this to anybody anymore.
Right. So everyone who bought it will have access forever.
This is the clearance sale.
Yes. Basically, just I'm letting you all know.
Yeah.
And I think it was just, and I didn't expect a lot of sales out of it. I just wanted to kind of just make a clean cut, and I was that product was at the time attracting the wrong audience of who I wanted to serve.
Yeah.
And it just exploded because of the scarcity.
Yeah, the scarcity is a huge principle there.
Yes. So the scarcity part I think was really good. I also mentioned how many people who taught the course earlier or took the course. So that's authority there, right?
Yeah.
And also likability. I included a lot of people who loved it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just a few sentences, and that was
a great offer.
And a great offer.
Yep.
And I think that alone generated over, which in Norwegian scale is for me is super huge, like almost $35,000.
Oh wow!
In just a few days.
Yeah, that's great.
And that also made me reevaluate the product. So I actually kind of reshot it and redid it to fit more to the audience I want to serve.
The more of the audience you had evolved into.
Yes.
The following. Okay.
So that kind of gave me a wake up call of my audience still wanted it, but I wanted to communicate it in a different way to help them in another way. Yeah.
That's great. So is there a time in your life, and there is in everybody's, when you had a really crappy situation that you were able to turn into a positive, and how?
Yeah. Yes. One of my first companies, I had a partner.
Okay.
And I was really young. I was 19, 20 years old. And he actually ended up taking all the money out of the company. And I was like rock bottom.
Like he robbed you?
He basically robbed me, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I was in great debt and really felt the pressure. And that was the first time I realized that instead of just building up brands and companies, I need to build my own personal brand as well. I had to sell my house, my car. My fiance left me. It was like totally rock bottom. But it made me reevaluate how I was communicating, and I started building my brand around it. So what I did was I understood that I needed to have some kind of social proof that I knew was what I was talking about to more business and entrepreneur people, not just marketers. So I identified he's basically like Richard Branson from Virgin in Norway.
Okay.
So he's called Petter Stordalen, and he runs a big hotel chain.
Okay.
And he was just getting into social media.
Okay.
And I realized if I were able to get him to do, I can video interview him and put it on YouTube, that will give me the social proof and authority, so I could start doing public speaking and more consulting-based things.
Yeah.
So I stalked him for a few weeks. Although I was living in the other side of the country, but I stalked him online, found out who his secretary was.
Okay.
And also, he's a man who has a big ego. So every time somebody gives him something he can brag about for himself, he kind of he loves to do that. So I then created a fake award show for business blogs, and I said he was the best business blog in Norway. And of course he couldn't help himself, so he reached out through his secretary and thanked me for not giving him the top spot. And I had the email ready saying, "That's great, I want to interview you for the award show as fast as possible."
Oh my gosh. Does this award show still exist, or it was a one-time thing?
It was a one-time thing. But again, it actually evolved into something real that worked for a couple of years.
Sure.
And he said, "Sure, just come over tomorrow morning and we'll do the interview."
Well, any award show starts out as a fake award show, right? They're just creating them out of thin air.
Probably. But my problem was that I didn't have any money.
Okay.
I didn't have a camera. And I was a 6-hour train ride from where he was.
Yeah.
So I actually borrowed some like $50 from my mom to just take the train to the capital of Norway.
Wow.
And I talked to the local TV station and asked them if I could borrow a camera because I was interviewing this like celebrity business person. And they said yes.
Yeah.
So I jumped on a night train. I had the interview, and the interview went super, super well.
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, I had my first paid speaking gig.
Yeah.
And that
because you were able to drop his name.
Yes, I was able to drop his name, and of course he couldn't help himself, so he shared the video interview with
you gave him
everyone
value
on social.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I think, my biggest turning point, both understanding influence and authority, and also understanding how kind of the social part of business works. That really turned things around. So I mean, 6 months after that, I was just traveling around all over Europe doing presentations and being able to charge more and more and more. I got a book deal. That turned into me being a CEO of another company. So it was really a big turning point for me.
Yeah, that is so great. And you, I love how scrappy it was of just going and borrowing
It was
the camera.
super scrappy.
Let's create an award
Yes.
that we're just going to give to him. And
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. So describe to me a little bit about your how you approach networking, working with other people, finding connections where you can add value and they can bring value to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you've obviously got that one story there where you can create an award show.
Yes.
But what else do you have?
That also changed a lot over the years, because when I was young, I was very hungry and very impatient. So again, creating a fake award show. I also, when I finally moved to the capital, I actually started a conference just to make friends.
Yeah.
So that attracted like almost 200 people that came to my conference. I invited some speakers that I wanted to be friends with, and suddenly kind of I had a network, right?
Yeah.
But these days, it's much more of finding people that you can provide some kind of value to.
Okay.
So for me, networking wise, and generating potential customers or friends or peers in any way, it's finding ways to provide value and not expecting a lot of things back. It's been very, very a slow transition into that, but now I truly just feel that's the best way to do it. But it's easy for me to say that now because I reached what I call the enough state in my business and in my relationships and everything. So I'm very happy where I am. So it's easier for me to spend a lot of time on things you can't measure as something that generates some kind of result, right?
Yeah.
So it's more me being an open, friendly guy that just replies and gets back to people.
Yeah.
Right?
Just being a genuine person, treating
Yes.
people's people.
Yes. So for me, networking wise, I think that's one of the biggest things for me. But it's also, again, about creating boundaries around that and also saying no to things.
Yep.
So for me, for example, email is something I always reply back to.
Okay.
Right? Because my list is my main thing, and it's something I control, and I don't feel like I have to get back to people right away.
Yeah.
But in terms of meetings, for example, I always say no to meetings or coffee meetings or quick calls.
Yep.
Because that would steal too much of my time.
Yep.
Right. But I still have the mindset of, if people reach me, I want to kind of help them in some way, but
Yeah.
I control it in a much more deliberate way now than I used to. So Facebook Messenger and email, I always get back to people. And because I always help people that ask me to do things, they're more than happy to introduce me to other people.
That's right.
And they're more than happy to refer me to other people.
Yeah.
And a thing I started almost 10 years ago is that I always said yes to everyone who's a student who goes to school to study business or marketing. I always said yes to do an interview and help them with their master degrees or
good. That's
assignments
great
and stuff.
that you do that for
And for me, I learned a lot from it. But now, 10 years later, a lot of those people are CEOs.
Yeah.
Right. Or marketing directors or anything like that. And they remember that I helped them out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's also something that I keep on doing, and I keep on getting a lot of value out of.
Yeah.
But I think the more kind of chilled and laid back you are around it, and the less you think of it as a tactic, the better it will work.
Absolutely. The more it comes actually from your heart,
100%.
the people are going to receive it into their hearts, right?
Yes.
So where should our audience go to find you if they want to find out more about Thomas? Where should they go?
I would actually, because I talk, I have a lot of content that's Norwegian. So the best way to reach me, if you're not from Norway, is Twitter. So Thomas Moen on Twitter is probably the best way to do it.
Okay, great.
And yeah,
we have a little gift for you.
Oh.
Thank you for coming on our podcast. So
thank you.
This is our book, From Poop to Gold. And the author followed us around for 3 years and identified 3 principles that are kind of the foundation of what we do, where it's creative culture, creative processes, and creative partnerships.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank
Thank you guys for listening. And remember to subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one.